supplement. Remember, one dose means over 5 hours of enhanced focus and productivity.
Hi everybody, it's 314 Reactor here. Today we are looking at some Cyberpunk with the 2.0 patch. We are going to be looking at the new DLSS 3.5 AI accelerated ray reconstruction technology. We're going to be looking at the performance, and we're going to be looking at how it looks and improves the existing denoiser. So here we are, I've got Phantom Liberty, I've got 2.0 patch. So just before we head into the benchmark, I'm of course running this with a Ryzen 7 7700X, 32GB of RAM and an RTX 4090 with 24GB of VRAM. Now, the main thing that we're going to be looking at is of course ray reconstruction, which uses Nvidia's new AI to fill in the gaps between pixels that haven't been captured from a ray. Because when you're firing out rays in a scene, you don't always get data back from the rays, which results in gaps, which results in noise. Now, the previous denoiser, I believe, uses information from prior frames to fill in the gaps. Now, the trouble with that is that because you're using information from previous frames, it can be rather slow to catch up, which results in the smearing and unstable images that we've seen, and even delay to lighting. When, a new light appears on the scene, it can take a while for the information to fill in. Now, this new technology is kind of how DLSS works with the resolution, in that it uses the new, even more trained model of 3.5 to fill in the gaps where the rays haven't returned information. Also means when you're running DLSS, the lower internal resolution is not where the denoising is happening. You're getting the denoising happening during DLSS, so it's reconstructing the entire image in one go, and we should see some performance benefits because it means you don't have multiple denoisers running after the ray tracing has happened. You're having the denoising happen as a part of DLSS. So there's a link in the description to the Digital Foundry video where they go over this in a lot more detail, and there's also a link to a Nvidia video on their YouTube where they go over the technology of the denoiser and how it actually works. Anyway, let's continue on. It's worth noting that the DLSS version, for some reason for me, after it downloaded Phantom Liberty, it set the DLL version to be 3.110 rather than 3.5. Now, since this uses DLSS 3.5 ray reconstruction, I find that extremely weird. So I fired up DLSS Swapper, found this out, and set it back to 3.5. This was after I did a whole bunch of video, which is quite annoying because now I have to re-record my benchmarks. That's something to note. I'm not sure whether that's intended or not, whether ray reconstruction does exist within 3.1, but given that it's DLSS 3.5, you'd expect it to be 3.5. Also, while we're here, grab DLSS Swapper because it's really, really handy for downloading DLSS DLLs and installing them on your games. Anyway, on to the benchmarks. Patch. So the first thing we do is go into video and look at my settings. Running 4K, no maximum FPS, no VSync. The graphical settings we have as high as they will go. DLSS frame generation, we are going to switch off for the purposes of this benchmark, but we'll switch it on for the gameplay because I just want to get a more realistic look at how much ray reconstruction is improving the frame rate. In my previous benchmarks, I tried it with frame generation on or off, and each time we saw about 4 or 5 extra frames, but I just want to do all the benchmarks now with frame generation off. I've got ray reconstruction on here. DLAA is off because it's currently not compatible with ray reconstruction. There is a mod for this which enables DLAA and ray reconstruction, which would be the best of both worlds because then you could have native 4K with anti-aliasing being applied by deep learning and also ray reconstruction really smoothing out the ray tracing. Everything else is set to high, psycho, max, ray tracing, path tracing, everything's on. The only thing I've got off is film grain because I don't think it looks that great in the game, and it kind of goes against the whole thing of denoising in my opinion. So the first thing we're going to do is run a benchmark with ray reconstruction on. Okie dokie, that's 48.98 frames a second average. And now what we do is we go into settings and we turn the ray reconstruction off, and then we rerun the benchmark. The thing to keep an eye out here for will be the stability of the lighting and how long it takes to update lighting, like shadows smearing, global illumination lighting filling in when new lights appear, also the stability of reflections in the puddles and things like that, and just generally how clean the image looks. So let's dive in. And there we go, 44.22. So yeah, again about 4 FPS, which is about what I saw with the previous one. I think the quality of the ray reconstruction looks a little bit better with the 3.5 DLL. The other thing I noticed is that when frame generation's on, the frame rate goes well above 100, whereas on 3.110 DLL, it was running about 70 to 80 FPS. So if you've got Phantom Liberty yourself and you want to check out the DLL version, do let me know in the comments, because that is rather odd. That's just a basic benchmark. It shows you a basic idea of the improvement in FPS and also a general look at the quality. So now what we're going to do is we are going to flick on frame generation, and now we're going to dive into the actual game. So here we are in game, and we are running at a 104 FPS. Yeah, this is weird. On that DLL that it put in after the update, it was running like 70 FPS, sometimes even around 60 FPS, even going below that. But now we're at like 100. I don't know, that's weird. It's just really weird, because I set it to 3.5 version 2 the other day. Anyway, let's find some reflective materials. So we've got my car here. Whoa! Which almost runs me over. So you can see the reflections really clear. Still a bit of smearing. I think the AI ray reconstruction takes a little bit of time and maybe can't be updated consistently every frame. Still quite a bit of smearing, yeah. Interesting. So we've got 108 FPS there. So let's turn the ray reconstruction off. Oh my god, look at that extra smearing. Holy crap. And yeah, we've lost about 4 or 5 FPS. But yeah, my god, the difference in smear there. Look at that. Look at that. And the image is just way less stable as you move around the car. Whoa! Every video I do on Cyberpunk, I get run over like that. This is a really good spot to get the smearing in with the cars going by. You can just see the headlights. 100 FPS there. Let's turn ray reconstruction back on. Yeah, extra 5 or so FPS. Still quite a bit of smearing though, with the brighter lights. The red colour seems to be quite a lot more smeary. Hopefully that will be ironed out in future. The reflection on the bonnet there is also a good little indicator. I think someone's gone angry and is ramming into the back of me. Let's just keep an eye on the reflection on the bonnet. Quite a smooth reflection. Ray reconstruction off. Just looks even looks a bit more blocky. Even like static, it just looks a bit more blurred and blocky. Ray reconstruction back on. Yeah, look at that. Look how much that clears up. So let's turn ray reconstruction off again, and then back on again. Yeah, even static as well, especially when you introduce movement. But even static, it just looks clearer. So we've got a big puddle here, and that is a really clean reflection. Again, you can still see, not perfect, still a bit of the sort of classical smearing. Even the shadow from the cars there you can see is still lagging a bit behind. There's even a blur from the cars themselves. Let's turn the ray reconstruction off here. Ooh, oh wow, oh that takes a dive. You can see the blurring of the shadows is even more pronounced. And the image, even static, it just looks really blocky. Same with the car here. Especially that bit there. So let's turn the ray reconstruction back on, and we're on about 80 FPS there. Ooh, man. So it's still about the same frame rate. Maybe a slight improvement in frame rate, a couple of FPS in this situation. But just look at the stability of that reflection on the car and in the water there on the ground. Wow. Like I said, there's still smearing, but just nowhere near that level. As this car goes over, we'll see. Yeah, look at that. Look at the difference. So we saw that car there. We can actually turn the ray reconstruction off and capture that next car as it goes over. Look at the difference. Look at the difference. Oh my god. This is so cool. AI-powered ray reconstruction. I think DLSS 4. I think that might crack it. I heard that Nvidia, they're saying that by the time it reaches DLSS 10, it'll be like full neural rendering that just sits on top of a basic game engine, and I can kind of see that happening, because it's just been continuous iterations for the past 5 years, and it's always really, really exciting. So now what I want to do is get to this area with the lighting, and I want to flick to nighttime. As you can see, there's still some delay, still some blur. You can even see the previous colors there. Slowly being filled in. The light isn't instantly changing, and there's definitely blur there where it's got information from the previous frame on that piece of ground when it was the previous color as the car goes by, which is interesting. That must mean there is a temporal element to this AI. If we turn ray reconstruction off, yeah, again the reflections in the ground way more pronounced with the blur. It also just seems that the lighting on the ground isn't... Oh, that's really slow to react, isn't it? Wow, look at that. That's almost like a second. You can kind of see the ground there. The colour at the top changes. The kind of Sims house party dance floor at the top there changes colour. And it takes like a second for the actual floor to change to the colour. See, the smearing of ray tracing, that sort of early ray tracing look, is going to be something that we remember, or at least I'll remember, in quite a nostalgic way in about 20 years. In the same way that I look back at the flaws of graphics from 20 years ago and see them as quite nostalgic and charming. So let's go into a really dark area here where there's a lot less ray information. This will put the denoiser to a bit more of a test. The lag on the floor, reflections there. Quite a bit of noise when you turn around very quickly. Reflection stability isn't so great. Let's turn the ray reconstruction back on. Again, just much more temporally stable. Cleaner images. And yeah, look, that quick turnaround. Look how much quicker that is. There's barely any noise. Let's go right into this dark corner here and just have a look at the ground. Let's go back to the original denoiser. Yeah, look at that. As you look up and down. The rays firing out. The denoiser catching up. That blur. And then the ray reconstruction. Oh, look at that. That's so much better. Wow. It's slightly noticeable, nowhere near as noticeable as the old denoiser. It's moving fast. I see some people say that graphics haven't moved forward very much in the past few years, and it's like, no. Graphical technology has been hitting it hard for the past half decade, and I am all here for it. There we go, got some more cool lighting here. Again, as that sort of RGB lighting changes, it's much, much quicker. Then we go back to the old denoiser. I think from the Digital Foundry video, they said it was like a second or so to catch up on the old denoiser. And quite a bit under a second for the new denoiser. Yeah, you can see it fading in. The top light changes colour. And then the ground slowly fades to that colour below it about a second later. Again, as you turn around, that the denoiser catching up there on the stairs there. And again, the ground just a bit pixelated, a bit there. As we go back to the new denoiser. Oh yeah, look at that.
Where did the masses go? Kaboom.
So much more seamless the way that light changes. There's still a bit of delay to it, like I say. It's not perfect. But again, we go back to the old denoiser here. Yeah, look, the light's changing so fast on that left light that the floor doesn't even have time to catch up. Look at the way that filled in there as well, that way that light filled in. It was literally like it was being painted on. And then ray reconstruction back on. It's actually quick enough to keep up with the changing of the light then. You don't see that sort of painted on effect so much. Oh, look at this floor here. God, that's so nice. There's quite a lot of detail in that reflection as well. There's a lot going on there. Stability of that person's reflection as they walk along is really nice. And then we go to the old denoiser. Yeah, it still looks pretty good, but you can see the delay in the reflections and smearing of people's shadows. And ray reconstruction back on again. Ooh, man, look at the difference. Whoa. So we're coming up to another amazing looking part now. Again, you can still see some of the rays catching up behind the car there. Still a bit of that sort of noise, but here we go, this bit. Look how cool this looks. There's still some weird issue with the ground where sometimes the road seems to change in its level of wetness and therefore its reflectivity. You can see that further bit of road there is a little bit more diffuse than the road right in front of us. I don't know why that randomly seems to change as you drive forward. I think that's some sort of weather-based bug or something. Incredible. Look at that. Ooh. Again, it's so reflective and there's quite a lot of movement going on. So what we can do is go back to the old denoiser and see how smeared and blurry that is. Especially as you start moving around, because it's so highly reflective. The bits where the road is a bit more bumpy, like here, there's just a lot more detail lost as the rays be reflected out in a more random way. And then ray reconstruction is back on. Yeah, that's... Man. The difference in the smearing. Yeah, ray reconstruction, DLSS 3.5 is a big, big step forward. This looks really clean. This looks really good. And that's with ray reconstruction on. Again, you can see this real detail in the shadows around the pillows there, just underneath the chairs and stuff. And then we turn the ray reconstruction off. And the scene still looks good, but there's something a bit more blurry about it. Like the reflections in the metal pipes there, the shadow underneath the pillows doesn't look quite as defined. And then we put the ray reconstruction back on. Yeah, it really cleans up that image. It's not just mirrored surfaces and highly reflective surfaces. It's not just bright areas, it's also the darker areas where it has a big, big effect. Let's look at something subtle like the shadowing underneath this bin here. See how it affects that, as well as the shadowing around that can on the left there. From the Digital Foundry video, they said there was extra details in the shadowing around these sort of areas. So let's see that. Turn the ray reconstruction off. Yeah, the shadow underneath the bin there isn't as defined, because there's a lack of rays under there, so a lot of that shadow is being handled by the denoiser, especially in this other shadowy areas on the left there, around the can, the pizza box, and the milk carton. But there's something really artificial about that sort of lighting. Putting the ray reconstruction back on, oh, that really tidies it up. What we can do is a journey from no ray tracing, basic ray tracing, path tracing, and then on to ray reconstructed path tracing. So let's go back to no ray tracing, rasterization. So this is rasterized, and oh my god, there's just such a lack of any shadowing, and the lighting looks so artificial. Let's crank on the ray tracing. So this is psycho ray tracing with no path tracing. And then let's put path tracing on. Again, another improvement. And then ray reconstruction back on. Oh man, that's great. And also just looking through the settings here, you need path tracing to have ray reconstruction. There's no way to see what the ray reconstruction would be like, if it would even work at all, which I don't think it would, with just the normal ray tracing. So just something I thought I'd look into. So again, we can do a similar sort of thing here. We can turn off all the ray tracing. And then we can go to ray tracing psycho. And then we can go up to path traced. And then path traced with ray reconstruction. Ooh, that's a step up. That's a step up. Let's find a really reflective area and do that same thing. And we'll also be taking screenshots to look at with Nvidia iCAT later. Let's check out this area here. In fact, what we can do is we can wait till the daytime and do a check here. So this is a fascinating area to check out. So we've got the full path tracing and the ray reconstruction here. And as you can see, lots of light is bouncing in from the outside here. Really realistically lit and shadowed. And let's turn all the ray tracing off. Pretty ugly. And then ray tracing psycho. Significant improvement in the quality of the image. And then path tracing. Again, another significant increase in the image quality. And keep an eye on the shadows and the reflection in the windows there as we turn the ray reconstruction on. Again, just a lot more definition in some of those shadows. Cleaner lighting. Really clean morning sun. Oh, that looks good. So before we go to iCAT, let's check out this incredibly reflective area and let's do some comparisons. So this area is another great example. Digital Foundry used it in their video to display how long it takes for the frames to update. You can still see the sort of previous frames color behind these people, as there's no ray information for that area, I think, so it's just reusing old information. So like I said, I think there is a temporal element still to the new ray reconstruction. But you can still see it updates relatively quickly as the colors change. But if we go back to the classic denoiser, you can really see how long it takes to fill in that color and how long the blurring of the prior colors last behind those people as they walk along. Like, it's so noticeable how long that takes. Look at that, you can see it painting in, it takes ages. And then to ray reconstruction. Still not perfect, still takes a little while, but way, way, way quicker. Yeah, look at that. There is still sometimes a really long delay. It's like we're in a universe where the speed of light is orders of magnitude slower than it is in our reality. Which makes me think you could probably do a game that simulates the speed of light using ray tracing really successfully, and it would look fantastic. There was a game I played like that before, but it was rasterized, so to do it with ray tracing, you could get it much more accurate and change the speed of light. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. So here we are with full path tracing and ray reconstruction. So let's go to rasterization. So you've got screen space reflections on the floor there, which don't have as much smearing, ironically, as ray tracing, but of course they're screen space, so very limited in that sense, and they're very blurry and not entirely great, as you can see by the reflections of the lights on the cars there, and even the fish swimming around. So let's turn the ray tracing on to psycho mode. Significant improvement, but still quite a bit blocky. The old denoiser, not so great, lots of smearing. Let's put path tracing on. Quite a bit of an improvement there, a bit more stable images, a bit more detail overall, and then we really clean the whole thing up and get rid of the majority of that smearing and the sort of blocky reflections in the ground with ray reconstruction on. The full journey from rasterization to path traced with AI reconstructed rays. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, I'm going to grab a thumbnail and then we'll move to iCAT analysis. Alrighty, here we are on iCAT. So on the left we've got the rasterized image, and on the right we've got the ray traced image. So if we zoom into this bit here, I think this has got the most salient points of the image. So you can definitely tell the very artificial lighting that rasterization has, and how immensely cleaned up that is just by having ray tracing. And if we do the ray tracing versus the path tracing, you just see there's a bit more natural light in that area there. I think it's just more global illumination coming in, especially on the pizza box there, as well as more definition in the shadows there. And then as we go up to path tracing with ray reconstruction, big leap, big leap from ray tracing to path tracing with ray reconstruction. Some extra blurriness there though, that can. So if we go to path tracing on the left without ray reconstruction, we can kind of see the difference there. Definitely in the shadow definition. Even in the definition of the grid here, just looks like the textures are a little bit better, which is again what Digital Foundry noted on their analysis. Yeah, it just seems like it's capturing a lot more definition even off the textures. Except this can looks a bit blurrier. But you can really see it in that shadow there. It's much more defined. And even the ground there, looks like the bump mapping is more defined. So yeah, it's not just in case of getting the lighting more accurate, it's also a case of increasing the overall fidelity as well, because you're able to capture more data per pixel, or reconstruct more data per pixel to get a much more accurate view. Even the noise in this dark area is a little bit better. Even the detail on the pizza box, you can see more detail on the pizza box. It's just blank there. And then as you go to the ray reconstruction, you're actually getting a lot more detail on that pizza box, like little crinkles in the cardboard and stuff. While there is a little bit of extra blurring here on the can, the shadowing around it looks a bit better, and on the bottom of it there. Also the pizza box just has a ton of extra detail on it. And then if we go on the left, back to rasterization, so even rasterization has detail on the pizza box. So where does that get lost? Ray tracing, path tracing. Ah, interesting. So while path tracing gives an overall better image, it looks like there's detail being lost. Maybe there's more denoising that needs to happen with path tracing, and that's what's making it lose the finer detail. So again, we've got rasterization on the left and ray tracing on the right. Much more better definition from the ray tracing, especially when you've got areas within the bins where light is being occluded, and cleaning up the ambient occlusion underneath the bins. Reflections are a lot better, obviously. We move it up to path tracing. It's even better definition on the shadowing and the reflections. And then path tracing with ray reconstruction. Even more detail under the shadows, under the bins there. Of course, that reflection looks a lot better. Let's go to path tracing on the left. Blurry there with path tracing, and then sharpened up, and slight more detail on the ground captured with ray reconstruction, and some more detail on this bit of concrete here. It's just capturing a lot more detail from the world. So yeah, it's not just reflections, it's not even just shadows, it's just generally the definition of the world is a lot higher with ray reconstruction. Definition on these boxes in the distance as well. And the shadowing between these little bits here, much more defined. Edges it a bit closer to photorealism. Look at the extra light being captured here as well on that reflection. Much more stable and realistic. There's even a bit of shadowing from these pipe bits here. It's a bit more well defined. So again, raster on the left and ray tracing on the right. So we've seen these sort of improvements before. Just generally much better definition. And as we move up to path tracing, way higher definition on things. Much softer, more realistic lighting. And if we go to ray tracing on the left, again, just much more global illumination, much more natural lighting, using path tracing over ray tracing. And then as we go to path tracing on the left and path tracing with ray reconstruction on the right, you can see again that further addition to the shadowing and lighting realism. Even this shadow here gets a bit more definition. Less blurry, more defined. And then there'll be again some extra definition in the shadows under here. Yeah, look how artificial that shadowing looks. It looks better than screen space ambient occlusion, but once you start smartly reconstructing missing rays over a simple denoiser, look at that. And then again, just more definition on this little block here. And on the final image, we have rasterization on the left again and RT on the right. So it's a bit of a moving image, so not quite as easy to discern things, but we can look at some static areas like this and just see the upgrade from screen space to a proper ray traced reflection. Especially here, you're just completely losing any definition in that reflection, and then ray tracing, you're bringing it in. And let's notch it up to path tracing. Again, very much higher definition. And then of course let's put ray tracing on the left now. So from ray tracing to path tracing, you just get a bit more global illumination. You're even getting a bit of a different view of this bit. I think again you're seeing a bit more the path tracing sort of blur there. You're actually losing a bit of definition. But then as you put ray reconstruction on, it regains that definition. So yeah, something about going to path tracing where you actually lose a bit of definition with the old denoiser. Because if we put path tracing on the left, blurry, more definition. There's more definition from ray tracing to path tracing in the reflections, but just directly like this. I wonder why that is. That's interesting. That's fascinating. That's really fascinating. So if we go from RT on the left, path traced ray reconstruction on the right. Yeah, geez, look at that difference. And if we go to just normal path tracing on the right versus ray tracing on the left, yeah, you can see, look at that. The reflections are much more detailed with the path tracing. And of course you're getting that extra global illumination. But then, you're just taking it up another level with the ray reconstruction. And again, you're getting more definition in that road as well. So if we go path tracing here, on the left, the road has just got more definition in it. More grain. You're seeing much more of the separation where the water is there, the puddle. Much more detail in this reflection. The bumps in the road. Look at that. That is incredible. So yeah, that old denoiser was really holding things back. And of course, if we put rasterization on the left, I mean, it's not even really a comparison, is it? So yeah, we've come a long way with Cyberpunk in terms of the graphics anyway, because it released with ray tracing and it was, even with a 3090 4K, 20 to 30 FPS, really hard to run, quite blurry, quite smeary, not 100% ideal, but now you got a really clean image. Like, look at that reflection, ray tracing on the left, path tracing with ray reconstruction on the right. That's the reflection in the road there. And the global illumination, additional detail. And also, yeah, you've got the frame rate being improved with DLSS 3.5 ray reconstruction, frame generation. They've really kept this game on the sort of bleeding edge. Like I said, I just can't wait to see ray reconstruction be in Quake 2 RTX. I think that would be amazing. I think that wraps up this video. Ray reconstruction is awesome. It needs to be in every ray tracing game going forward. I can't wait to see what DLSS 4.0 brings. Check out all the links in the description and keep an eye out next week for the video where I'll be doing a little sort of mini review on what I think of Phantom Liberty and Cyberpunk 2.0 overall. Hit that like button, drop a comment, let me know what you think, subscribe and hit the little bell. There's always new videos on technology and video games. Hope everyone's staying safe and I will see you in the next video.